right, so picture this. Jannik Sinner, fresh off that U.S. Open win, walks into the press conference. Cameras are flashing. Microphones are everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's not the usual, post-victory buzz.
Right.
It's like you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah, and I think what's so fascinating here is the context, right? This wasn't just a regular run-of-the-mill post-match press conference. I mean, this was Sinner's first public appearance since that whole drug test controversy.
Oh, totally.
Which, had everyone talking even before the tournament started.
Exactly. This wasn't just a deep dive on the tournament. This was a deep dive into a total powder keg.
Exactly.
And the tension. I mean, you could have cut it with one of Sinner's rackets.
Oh, for sure.
And to top it off, he's late. And not just like, oh, I'm fashionably late. Like, is he even coming?
Oh, late. Wow.
And the journalists are ready to riot when the moderator's like, okay, we're going to move on from the doping questions.
Oh, I bet. See, and this is where Sinner's demeanor is just so interesting.
Yeah.
The article, it describes him as like calm, collected, direct. You can just picture it. Ice water in his veins, right? Not just answering the questions, but like dismantling them.
That's like he walked out of a pressure cooker and right into an ice bath.
He even made some jokes, right?
Yeah. It's incredible. Such composure, especially given everything going on. And it reminded me of what he said earlier this year, remember? I like to dance in the pressure storm.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't just dancing in that press conference. He was leading the whole orchestra, facing the music. And honestly, I think he won over some people who were doubting him. Totally. But okay, before we get totally lost in Sinner's, off-court game, we got to rewind to the actual tennis here. Because believe it or not, this U.S. Open run, not all smooth sailing.
It really makes you think about his whole career, Flashes of brilliance mixed with these moments where he looks, almost vulnerable.
Right. Remember that first match against McDonald? And McDonald, this guy was ranked outside the top 100. Sinner barely squeaked by. It wasn't exactly the start of a championship run, was it?
No, not at all.
Not a great look for the supposed next big thing.
You almost wonder if it was like a wake-up call, though. Because after that near miss, something changed.
Really?
He went on this tear, just completely dominated. And we're not talking about nobodies, right? This is Alcaraz, Djokovic, guys at the top of their game. And Sinner just blew past them. Everyone was talking about it.
It's like he needed that little scare against McDonald just to remind everyone, hey, I'm here to play. But while we're talking about serious business, can we go back to that whole doping thing?
Yeah.
It's not exactly a walk in the park to get a positive test overturned like that, especially with so much on the line at a Grand Slam.
It's almost unheard of, right? The article, I think it actually mentioned that an ITA official said he couldn't remember another case like Sinner's.
Whoa. Okay, so what made this different? Was it just some fancy legal footwork? Sinner's got a good team, right?
It was more than that. It sounds like the way his team worked so fast and all the resources they had to get everything explained perfectly, most players wouldn't have a chance, The article seems to suggest that might have been a factor in the appeal working out.
So maybe a little advantage there, who knows? But even if the official ruling went his way, he still had everyone watching him, and not everyone was on his side. Kyrgios going off online, and then Paul posting that picture with the physio and the gloves. You gotta wonder who was left in his corner.
It's interesting how Sinner handled all that doubt. He didn't bite back, no big social media comebacks or anything, just kind of built a wall around himself, his team, and shut out the rest. Focused on the game.
He even said something about Kyrgios, like, I'm pretty relaxed, I forget things quick.
Yeah.
It takes some serious mental strength to just shrug that off.
Totally. Being able to separate himself from that, block it out, that's going to be a big part of why he's so tough to beat on the court.
Speaking of tough, let's talk about the actual tennis for a sec. The article doesn't just say he won. It uses words like unreal, elasticity. What does that even mean when we're talking tennis?
It means he's on another level, and not just hitting the ball hard. It's about Sinner's accuracy, those smooth, effortless movements he makes, putting the ball exactly where he wants every time, that backhand down the line. Article said it's basically impossible to return power and placement.
It's like he's playing chess while everyone else is doing a puzzle or something. And speaking of memorable matches, that Medvedev rematch was intense. The guy who beat you in the Wimbledon final, now you're in the U.S. Open quarters, this doping thing still hanging around.
And Sinner didn't just win, he took Medvedev apart. Wasn't flashy, more like a chess match, both of them thinking 3 steps ahead. But Sinner's mental game, that focus under pressure, that won out. Proved the Australian Open wasn't a fluke.
Then there was that Draper match. Kind of hard to watch at times, even if you're rooting for Sinner.
Yeah, sweatiest entity takes on a whole new meaning when you remember. Well, the on-court situation Draper had going on.
Like a slow-motion train wreck,
Yeah.
And Sinner just didn't flinch. Draper's revisiting his lunch, and Sinner keeps his head down, wins in straight sets.
Again, it shows how he blocks stuff out. Chaos all around, and he's locked in.
And then the final. against Fritz with Taylor Swift, the Taylor Swift watching.
Right.
You'd figure even a Grand Slam final would have a tough time competing with that, right?
Yeah, I would think.
But I gotta say, even Taylor Swift couldn't outshine the performance Sinner put on.
Yep.
And get this, the article talks about Fritz saying before the match, he was actually looking forward to playing Sinner. Admire his bowl striking. Can you believe that?
Wow. Talk about giving your opponent some extra motivation.
Right. Though maybe when you're up against Sinner, a little admiration's all you got.
Maybe so. But admiring it and matching it are two different things. Wasn't even close. Sinner, just total domination.
Total domination. And yet, even winning like that, so decisively, the article, it says Sinner seemed more, relieved and over the moon happy. Like he climbed a mountain, but didn't have the energy for a party at the top.
Well, it wasn't just a tournament he won. It was weeks of people doubting him, questioning him. Remember when he dedicated that win to his aunt? She was sick, right. Totally different vibe than when Alcaraz won the year before.
Yeah, night and day. And he even said something like, if I had one wish, it would be for everyone to be healthy. Kind of heavy stuff for a 23-year-old at the top of his game.
It shows maturity, you know? He's got perspective, thinks about more than just tennis, knows how fragile things are, how important other things are.
It's almost like that whole controversy, tough as it was, made him face those bigger questions. Made him realize there's more to life than trophies.
Maybe so, but let's not forget that controversy, not over yet. Wada appeals still out there. His reputation, his whole legacy, it's all still up in the air.
So even with the win, the Grand Slam, that doubt's still hanging over him. Tough to imagine.
It is, and that's what makes Sinner so interesting. Calm on the outside, but driven inside. Power, but also discipline. He's achieved so much, but he's not done yet. Not even close.
The article ends with him having a burger to celebrate, of all things, and then it's back to training. No big bashes, no parties, just wants to keep getting better. Makes you think, can he hold on to this focus, this level of play with all that WDI stuff going on? Can he really shut out the noise?
That's the question, isn't it? One thing's for sure, though, Jannik Sinner's story. It's just getting started, and we'll be watching every step of the way.